So last week, we talked about what love is from the perspective of it being a noun, that we are that in form. And today we're going to talk about love in action. And from the larger perspective, if there's only one infinite source, and it's love, and we're made out of it, by it, to be it, then we have to be it. And so every activity that we engage in must also be an activity of love. Yes? And yet, sometimes human activity appears to be anything but loving. So how do we navigate that gap? Well, part of it is understanding that love in action doesn't necessarily mean that our thought content is loving. That we are love, but we have the power to hate if we choose. And we have the power to be mean if we choose. The thing that we don't have the power to do, that really, once I got solidly clear about this piece, it changed everything for me. What we don't have the capacity to do is not act. We don't have that. Every thought, every belief instantly is activated. There's three components of creation, of the creative process, and sometimes it's easy to look at them as separate, but they're just part of the same thing. In this wholeness is mind, where all thought is. Our thought, everybody's thought. And every one of those thoughts are instantly impressed into the activity of law. And if we really understand that law is simply a receiver and an actor, that's it. It just takes whatever we think and puts it in motion instantly. There's no pause. There's no grace period. There's no waiting period. We think it, law goes to work on making it happen. And that's what shows up in effect, in form, as our lives. The good news and the bad news is that your life is always an absolute, accurate representation of your beliefs. Let me say that again. Our lives are always, without exception, an exact example of our beliefs. Because that's how this thing works that created us. We believe it, law acts on it, it shows up in form. So if what is showing up in your life is less than loving, here's the good news. You are completely empowered to change that just as quickly and as effortlessly as you created what is showing up that you didn't actually want. That's the good news. We have the same power within us. It's a simple process of shifting our thoughts. I'm going to talk about this whole love in action this morning in context of community. We started out with what love is and our individualized expression of it. Well, we don't live on the planet alone. We live in community. So how does the interaction happen? And that's where the activity comes together. And sometimes your activity and my activity may appear to be in conflict. Anybody else ever notice that? I mean, and it can happen in the most beautiful of relationships. I want to get up at 6 a.m. Deborah wants to get up at 10 a.m. We have a small house. Deborah really doesn't want to get up. So I have to be very quiet Or I can just bang around the house and blame it on her, because isn't that sometimes what we do? Yeah? We have our way. I mean, we have these little phrases. There's your way, there's my way, and then there's the right way. Or the highway. And if we're being really honest, most of us stop at there's my way. We'll acknowledge you have a way, but internally, are we really acknowledging that your way has the same validity as my way? Probably not, if we're being really honest. Because if we were, would there even be a differentiation between your way and my way if they were both equally valid? Just a question I ask myself sometimes. Okay. And in community, it really gets messy, doesn't it? Because some people want things to start at 9, and some people want it to start at 10, and some people would prefer that we start at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Some people would prefer we have service down by the river. Some people would prefer, we have it here. We got all kinds of desires going on, right? And the beautiful part is they're all valid. They're all important. And there's absolutely no way for a community to meet everybody's wants at the exact same time. Can't happen. Creation gets to do that because creation is itself every one of us. And so by the virtue of what it is all of the desires. And when we come together, we got to navigate those things a little differently. So how do we begin to be love in action and be loving at the same time? How do we be love in action and be kind at the same time? How do we even know what love is calling me to do versus what my fear is calling me to do? Because sometimes it's very confusing which is which. Because if I really love you, sometimes I'm afraid for you. But we're not supposed to have fear. Maybe we are, or we wouldn't have it. Maybe it's how we translate it that matters. I think what is most important in all of this is that we really start checking in with ourselves. Is this love moving me in this direction, or is it fear that I'm not going to get something? Because that's not actually fear, that's lack consciousness. And for anybody that was in Foundations class, so someday soon you're going to have them participating in a Sunday service, and it will be quite amusing and fun, I assure you. This whole thing of lack really gets in there, and we don't even know it's operating. And it shows up sometimes disguised as love. Okay? When we want a relationship, if we're wanting the relationship from the standpoint of feeling like we're missing something, then that's lack consciousness. Because if we're whole, perfect, and complete, there's nothing missing. So any activity, even if we call it love, to fill a void is coming from a misunderstanding. When we really get that we are love, then every activity is an expression of that love. We don't have to get love, we just have to be love. That's our calling. Our opportunity is to be love. One of the things that is happening here at Sierra is we have all kinds of opportunities. If you're not familiar with this little list, the in service to you, they're over on the counter there. This bottom piece, sacred service. Okay? We have lots of opportunities to do sacred service. And sacred service is literally that. It is love in action. It's not to get anything. It is to show up, love this community, keep it sustainable for everybody who wants to be here, everybody who doesn't even know it's here yet that may be called to be here. And I've had some interesting conversations of late where folks have expressed a desire to be in service, but have this idea that it takes a ton of time. Not so. So I want to use this opportunity to clear that up. Being in most of these service positions, it take you about 2 hours a week. 2 hours a week. And if we go to this concept of tithing, which is again a form of love in action, to give 10% of our time, that's 16.8 hours a week to something. Okay? That what could we impact on this planet, in this community, if we all set aside 10% of our time to give in service to humanity? Okay? You get to keep a whole lot of your time. 16.8 hours a week is not a ton of time. On average, the attendance of folks that come to Sierra, we would have more than enough people to cover all of the service commitments if we each gave 1%, not even 10%, 1%. And so I just want to put that out there to think about. And if things come up that I don't have enough time, get with me, get with a practitioner, get with someone you trust, and let's talk about what's happening that we're prioritizing something other than our spirituality. Because giving ourselves the time, okay, within that 10%, what if you prioritized yourself? What if you dedicated 2.4 hours, you made yourself the first 10%, okay? So 2.4 hours a day you dedicated to your spiritual practice, to reading, to studying, to meditating, to being in prayer. What would change in your life? I don't have the specifics, but I can guarantee you it will improve the manifestation. What the outward experience is will greatly improve because you're prioritizing your soul's expression. You're giving it an opportunity where you hear your inner voice. And then if you extrapolated that out to family, extrapolate that out to community, whether it's your spiritual community, whether it's the larger community. And even if you divvied up that 16.8 hours a day, but prioritizing your spirituality, prioritizing being focused so that the love in action that you take is conscious, as in aware, as in intentional. Because the reality of it is we are all love in action all the time anyway. Because love is what there is. It's how intentional will we channel it? Because that's what we're really doing. We are channeling the love that we are through the expression of love that we are. And when we set our intention to be mindful, to really anchor in and know, to listen to what is my soul's desire, and let that inform your doing, amazing things are going to happen in your life and in every life you touch. Ernest Holmes said that the goal of this teaching is to so completely embody the truth of who we are. That people are healed simply by being in our presence. That it doesn't require words. That it doesn't require anything other than really embodying. And when we embody something, we become it. And it will absolutely motivate our feelings and our urges and our actions. And so I invite you to take some time today and to really sit with you. Not from the point of, what do I need to do differently? Differently's gone. Whatever you did before you got here, whatever before this moment, it's already done. Let's get in the moment. Let's get in the now. And to sit with yourself and say, what wants to express as me? And just ask that over and over again. What wants to express as me? And then listen. And if questions pop up, trust that that is your soul guiding you to beliefs that might need to be examined. And so, if a question pops into my head was, what if I don't have enough time? Answer the question. Those internal questions, how many of us actually take time to answer those? See, that is your soul talking to you. Answer the question. Well, what would happen if I prioritize myself? Answer the question. What happens if somebody gets upset with me? Answer the question. Let your soul inform you. It is infinite intelligence. What if we began to trust that activity of love? That nobody outside of you has any answer for you. Some of us are good tour guides to help you get to your answer, but ultimately you are the only one that has your answers. So when you go inward and listen, then you have to trust. And okay, so you make a mistake. So what? Anybody in here never made a mistake? Okay. So we clearly have all survived the process. Yes? Right. No one has ever succeeded without making mistakes. Go forth and mess up. Because at least then you're engaged. And you're engaged enough to recognize, ooh, I really thought that was going to wind up here, and I wound up here. Information, adjust. Go again. But most of us, to use the very male-oriented target analogy, okay, we aim, and we aim, and we aim, and we never shoot. Okay? We're always so busy aiming. You're never going to know how good your aim is until you shoot and get feedback from the target of how to adjust. So take a risk. Take an action. Know that you are love in action. You're going to get feedback. You adjust. And you act again. Listen. Trust. Give it a shot. Worst case scenario, you do it again. Okay? But isn't that what we're here for? Is to take action. To be love in action. And if you mess up and you step on someone else's toes, creation created this magnificent thing called an apology. I invite you to give up, I'm sorry. Give it up. That's very different than, I apologize for stepping on your foot. Okay? If you're going to issue an apology, actually tell someone what you're apologizing for. But this blanket, I'm sorry, in the activity of creation, think about what you're doing. Because every time you utter those words, I'm putting a belief system, activating law for me to show up as sorry. So I should not be surprised if all of a sudden my life looks like a sorry life. Okay? Yeah. A couple of folks are like, whoa. We have notes upstairs. We're not allowed to say we're sorry. We can say, oops, all day long. But sorry is out of here. Because we're not sorry. We're human. We make mistakes. Sometimes we apologize to one another. But neither one of us is sorry. Okay? Stop saying you're sorry. Because you're not. You're love in action. Be that. Be conscious. Be aware. Be intentional. It's your life. If you don't like how it's showing up, you get to change that. And you're the only one who gets to change it. I'll close with this. We are in interesting times here on planet Earth. We can be a positive influence if we choose to be. There's one big pot of soup. Okay? One big pot of soup. You can't salt this corner and it not flavor the whole soup, right? Okay? I mean, many of us in here cook. I trust probably all of us at one point has cooked something. You can't flavor part of it and not impact the whole. We get to flavor the soup with love over and over again. Don't get pulled in to the nastiness. Don't get pulled into the hopelessness. Don't get pulled into the appearance. That's what Thomas Troward talked about of reasoning from secondary causation. We go to cause. Cause is love. No matter what you see out here, our opportunity is to see love there, beyond the behavior, beyond our own behavior. Okay? Because we're not immune. Okay? Find love. See love. Keep adding love to the soup. And that's the soup that we'll have, is love. Let's take this into prayer. Knowing that there is only one infinite, ever-present allness, that it is love, life, light, peace, power, presence, infinite intelligence, infinite abundance. That it is the very source, the very activity, and the very manifestation of creation. In that truth, I must be in unity, always one with it. And given that there is only one, what is true of me must be true of all life. Intricately, inseparably connected within the one. And so I claim and affirm, I embrace the full responsibility of my ability to respond from that awareness of the love that I am, of the peace that I am, of the power that I am, of the infinite intelligence and abundance that I am. That each response is intentional, conscious, integral to the wholeness that I am. And what I speak for myself, I speak for all creation. Because there is only one here, experiencing itself in multiplicity. So I call forth that brilliance in every form of creation, knowing that we lean into and embrace the love that we are, no matter what the outward appearance. No matter what. We stand on the authority in the agency of love itself, allowing source to inform our thoughts, our feelings, our urges, and our actions. Knowing that must return. Knowing that is the activity that heals. Nothing to heal, only more God to reveal. And so we open to a revelation of the love that we are in the actions that we take, in the beliefs that we hold, knowing that as the divine is revealed as us, healing happens. Grateful to know how this all works. Grateful to have a glimpse of understanding to the magnificence of creation. Grateful to know that just as quickly as the words are formed in mind and spoken in voice, they are done. That law acts definitively, completely, accurately to make it so. And so knowing that it is already complete, it is with absolute confidence that I release the word of the one spoken as me into the law of itself. And I invite you to join me as we anchor this by saying, and so it is.